Hi everybody. I hope that that had the creepy effect I intended it to. Nothing like a slow fade in to get us started. Okay, I want to be brief, so I'm going to get right to it. As we get into the dog days of summer and into the second half of your course, you should know my expectations. Okay, and a lot of people are doing great work, and you should continue to do great work, and you will get great marks. You have every opportunity to do so with the system we're using where you can resubmit. However, some people still are submitting problematic assignments in that you're not citing your sources. And if you're not citing your sources, you're basically plagiarizing. So I will, from now on, more or less be giving you unmarked assignments or zeros. That is not to say that they will permanently be zeros because you don't cite your sources. They will just send you the message that they are unacceptable and that you will be penalized for them. And that goes for every assignment, even if you're just using the shell itself. You still need to use sources. Okay. So that is an absolute. I've said it once. I don't want to talk about it again. But those zeros will matter if you do not resubmit them with the sources cited, and preferably, of course, with the Chicago manual style. I've noticed some people are having some trouble with certain assignments, and a lot of these assignments are similar, and they're difficult in that they require a little bit of creativity. So I'm going to go through two scenarios that you really need to get better at. You need to sharpen your skills a little bit in order to be successful. The first of them is using Web 2.0 tools. So we've had to do that a few times so far. Here are a few which I can think of off the top of my head. Timeline, the Venn diagram, the presentation you had handed on the 1920s. In terms of, let's just use the timeline as an example. Part of what your job is to be in this course is creative. You are working at the academic level, and you are skilled people, and you're using the resources of an online course. An online course is not a substitution for a pencil and paper course. Yes, you're using the same skills, but there should be something fundamentally different, augmented, new about the way we use the internet. And one of the mandates of this course for myself, and one of the challenges I've tried to establish, is for us to learn a little bit about those tools, okay? So, and the resources that those tools provide. So the example of the timeline. A lot of people did very traditional timelines online. They gave me pictures and they gave me captions, and so they gave me a bunch of information with some pictures. Sometimes the pictures didn't even have anything to do with the captions, really. They were very loosely based. But if you use the timeline tool that I provided, or any timeline that's online, you can do these amazing links, and I modeled them before. But let's just do randomly, let's just think about a common date that people chose. So I found that in terms of the World War II timeline, the vast majority of people thought that Pearl Harbor was a big deal. Okay, so let's just go to YouTube and look up Pearl Harbor quickly. So we're looking for some form of video clip that we could include and link to. I mean, right off the bat, you have all of these ridiculously long and amazing resources, right? And some of them are songs, some of them are little documentaries, some of them are major motion pictures, Some of them you'd have to look at and figure out if they're good. This is war archives, I don't know what the footage will look like. But the point is that your job is to sort through this unbelievable resource. Like, there's millions of things, of clips to look through, and find one that works, and find one that's an appropriate length and that tells us a lot about that event and brings it to life. And I think you would agree with me that a 3-minute video clip, well chosen, will be a little bit more exciting than a black and white picture next to one line of dialogue. Yes? Okay, so you kind of get the point. Venn diagrams. Venn diagrams have a specific role. They're half design, half content, and the form is created to accentuate sameness and difference between two events. And yet some people still don't want to do a Venn diagram. They say, "Oh, I'm just going to put it in chart form." Well, you're not going to get a mark if you don't use a Venn diagram, because you haven't done the work to think about the design. Other people, on the other hand, have really worked hard at finding a good tool for it, or creating their own tool, and really laying things out nicely, because that's half of the battle. So a lot of 21st century skills involve thinking a little bit about design. And as we get into our culminating task in the blog and the survey, and don't worry, I will do very specific prep videos so that you understand my expectations, but all of the tools you're using now, you're going to have to use the same skills to do the blog and the survey, because again, part of your mark will be how well and how creative you use them, how creatively you use them, and how much you're willing to put into the experimentation with them. Okay. The second type of presentation or type of assignment that comes up a lot is role plays. So role plays come in the form of letters, they come in the form of dialogues, they come in the form of just straightforward role plays. You've had to do a lot of them, and a lot of people struggle with some basic parts of creating authentic characters. Even though the historical information is mostly there, a lot of people struggle at creating historical moments that feel authentic. So just as a brief tip, here's what you can do. In terms of characterization, give people real names, use real dates, use real settings that existed, and these should all be based on history. Yes, based on your research, depending on what it is. A very good strategy when you're doing anything like a dialogue is to have a few different vignettes. So the dialogue doesn't have to be just one straight conversation, which is going to feel kind of forced and crazy. You could create like a whole little play where you have 3 different conversations over the course of 6 months, if that helps, right? And then you can really develop the scene a little bit more and pack more historical information into that. I'm not saying the role plays aren't done well, but a lot of people don't do the basics to make these kind of level 4. And remember, being empathetic, is not just imagining scenarios off the top of your head. It's doing the research and then finding a creative way of putting it down on paper. Okay, so I would appreciate it if everyone used some of these strategies. Number 4, changing subjects a little bit. I promised you that I would put some models. I promised you that I'd put some models in the discussion area. So if you go down to exemplars, I now have posted one. I'm going to post one for any Dropbox or discussion that's closed, so you get a sense of some real quality assignments that people put a lot of work into. And the last one I want to touch upon, because I know people are working hard, and I know it feels like there's tons and tons of assignments, but you have to think about it more in terms of what you are not expected to do as well. There are no tests, there are no quizzes, right? There's hardly any busy work. Okay, so the busy work in this course, even though it's a little bit more intense than that, is that if you look at the breakdown of the 31 assignments, first of all, you have 19 days, not including the last week, which I've devoted to your culminating task. So 19 days before that to do 31 assignments, which is about 1.5 a day. So if you're if you're working for about 5 hours a day, that's 2 segments of 2.5 hours to get 1.5 assignments done. I think for the most part, you can safely do that. The other thing to keep in mind is a third of these 31 assignments are 2 markers. They're shorter. Some of them are worksheets. Some of them are short posts that can be done fairly quickly. So as much as people feel like they're slogging through a lot of assignments, if you manage your time wisely, This shouldn't be a big problem. The lag between the due date and the close of the Dropbox and the discussion is always going to be close to a week. So you shouldn't really feel that pressure too much, and you can always communicate with me in between. I obviously want the best quality work possible. I'm looking for you to resubmit, and some people are resubmitting 3-4 drafts and getting the results that they want. And I encourage you to do that. So that's it for now. Upcoming assignments, just keep these two things in mind. How you're using these tools, do them as effectively as possible and as creatively as possible, and the role plays. And we should have a great finish to this course. If there are any questions at all, as always, there's no stupid question, just ask, and I try to be online at least 3 times a day, so there's no more than 4 or 5 hours between my response time and your question. Okay? This is a long segment, so I'm going to sign off. Take care, everybody. That probably wasn't as cool, was it? No, you can see that. Alright, I'm leaving now. Take care.